Hey, Justice here. Edge of Fate has just released and a lot about the game is changing. From weapon tuning to armor 3.0, the artifact, and everything around those edges. There is a lot to cover for those of you that have a life outside of Destiny. Don't you worry though, I've got you covered with 5 Titan builds that I'm going to be excited to try out after combing through the TWID and picking my poison. Just to reiterate though, that these builds are ones that I'm eager to try and cook with. And who knows, maybe I've provided you with top secret information that'll blow your minds. Or my builds will end up with the same result that Homer had pouring milk into cereal. All the footage in this background is gameplay that I grabbed before the expansion was released, so please take this into consideration when listening to my words of lunacy. But without further ado, my fellow Crayon Crusaders, I present to you 5 builds that I'll be taking with me into the Edge of Fate. Kicking things off first, we have Actium War Rig, an old exotic getting some love from Bungie with what I believe to be some very nice buffs given to it. This exotic maintains its unique perk of steadily reloading the mag of your auto rifles and machine guns while they are in your hands. It will now also provide an increased stability, ammo generation, and damage per final blow with those weapons up to a maximum of 10 stacks. This will be displayed with a meter buff like Wormgods, so the stacks shouldn't all drop off at once. And with the newly added ammo meters at the bottom of the weapons UI, it should be visually easier to see when you're about to get that next ammo brick to drop. Reserve mods will also be getting replaced and transformed into ammo generation mods, along with weapon perks that previously increased ammo reserves being changed to the same generating purpose now. Perks such as field prep and air trigger. This exotic paired with the auto rifle buff that recently happened in Revenant is a nice indicator it might be time to slap that heavy duty military chest piece back on and go at it Rambo style. We'll be pairing this chest piece with Stormkeep's barricades because when you bring the fight to the enemy, nobody said you weren't allowed to bring your own protection. Even though Stormkeep itself is losing some pretty substantial support once the Heresy's artifact is gone, and the added nerf of multiple barricades not providing faster bulk charge stacks, the aspect may lose a lot of DPS momentum, but it still has tons of high-end content functionality and is very reliable for ad clear. Aspects for this build are Storm's Keep and Knockout, and then the fragments are Spark of Resistance, Spark of Ions, Spark of Frequency, and Spark of Volts. With the Armor 3.0 changes released, armor that drops now will be in archetypes, which means armor will drop with a predetermined primary stat, a secondary stat, and a random third stat dropping in any of the other 4 stats, leaving the remaining 3 stats at 0. With this, your stats now have an additional benefit of exceeding 100, with 200 being the new benefit maximum, and each stat having a different boost associated with it. For a more visual understanding, I briefly go over this in my latest video involving the changes to 801, so go check that out. Link for it will be in the description. For this build, you're going to want to focus your armor into the Gunner archetype, which primarily focuses on the weapon stat, with Grenade as a secondary stat. If you would prefer for more barricade uptime and an overshield when you cast it, focusing into the Specialist archetype will primarily give class stats and weapons as a secondary, and every stat above 100 will give a percentage overshield. My initial build has the exotic Kvostov with an arc machine gun like Terminus Horizon, although you'd probably rather want a faster firing machine gun to generate bulk charge stacks faster. So if you manage to get yourself a good roll of the Watchful Eye from Heresy, that might be better suited. These weapons are mainly a suggestion for what you would prefer to play. It's the build that is the main focus. So if you want to put your own flavor on it and use a legendary auto to then have a Thunderlord or Xenophage, you absolutely can. Or the true exotic combo paired with Sweet Business, you absolutely can. In build number 2, we are welcoming back Bonk out of retirement. Previously a very simple and powerful build, it received a large amount of nerfs, the most punishing one being the recharge time before you can throw the hammer again. Although, and this could be pure cope, but with the stat changes, and most stats base fundament being they increase your ability regen from that source, focusing into melee through the Brawler archetype might just speed up how quickly you get your hammer back to toss at your next victim. In classic Bonk fashion, your choice of exotic will be narrowed down to Synthoceps or Wormhusks. Synthoceps is the safer option, only requirement being that you must have 3+ opponents within proximity of you to gain the melee buff and extra handling, while Wormhusks requires you to pick on the weaker mobs first to build up your Burning Fists meter, ramping your damage higher with those hammers. Regardless of which exotic you pick and prefer, the base gameplay will be the same. You throw your hammer, you hit the enemy, you pick up your hammer, and you continue. If you miss your hammer, pain. In Edge of Fate, Bungie are doing a big change to melee buff stacking and transforming it to additive and not multiplicative. TLDR of it, your base damage of 100, when buffs were previously calculated, could get buffed by almost up to 5 times if given a 200% buff, and then further by adding a 50% buff to create a 350% buff. Now, if you were to give it the same 200% buff and 50% buff, they would be added together, making a 250% buff. Anyway, because of how that works now, Bungie went through and buffed every melee-oriented exotic, perk, and aspect that has a melee buff tied to it, making them feel a bit nicer. And with that, one thing stood out to me. The 1-2 punch buff. where it now works with all abilities. So the Bonk hammer emerges from its cave and is worn once again on a full solar build, using Roaring Flames and Sol Invictus for ramping solar damage and healing in your sunspots. When you complete the legendary campaign as a Titan, you will be rewarded the new exotic arms, the Malus Panoplia. These arms will make you feel like Thor, where collecting fire sprites or rapid solar final blows will make you a Forge Master, allowing you to recall your hammer. These sound like a lovely power fantasy / roleplay for those who want their own Mjolnir, so definitely try those out with the build if you feel like it. The fragments used for this build are Ember of Solus, Ember of Empyrean, Ember of Torches, and Ember of Combustion. Our third build on the list is the neglected middle child of Titan Solar and Prismatic Consecration, and that's Pyrogale Gauntlets. After his big brother retiring and his younger brother outshining them both for a whole year, it's time for Pyrogale to get some love that it truly deserves. Sadly, after Prismatic Titan spoiled all the fun by getting Consecration's ignition damage nerfed across the board, the Solar Aspect version still retains the 3 fragment slots, and while it doesn't have 3 total melee charges to slam with, the assistance of Sol Invictus and the melee stat changes should help with regenerating your hammer back in no time to use more often. Plus, the additional positive of turning the Consecration Slam and the Burning Maul super into fire cyclones is still one of the most satisfying things to me, if I do say so myself. There is also the artifact perk named Cauterized Darkness, where Strand and Stasis debuffed non-bosses take increased solar damage, using chill clip weapons like Tanash's Mastery from the Iron Banner, or any weapon that can get tear or slice will help out in maximizing your Pyrogale damage. If you don't want to use Sol Invictus and just go for the bigger damaged way, then slap on Roaring Flames to get the job done. And with the help of some ignition fragments, some pugilist weapons, or Monte Carlo, you'll get that hammer back in no time. Fragments for this one are Ember of Blistering, Ember of Wonder, Ember of Eruption, and Ember of Combustion. Now we're donning our chef hats and aprons and entering Hell's Kitchen here with what I would like to call the Tower Defense Titan. The artifact for Edge of Fate shows a lot of love and support for Strand, Stasis, and Scout Rifles. And so with this, we're going to capitalize on those with a Prismatic Lancecap build, utilizing Rally Barricade, Diamond Lancers, Drenger's Lash, Suspending, Overshields from melees, and the Twilight Arsenal super. This one takes the approach of the Actium War Rig and spins it in a new angle. Drenger's Lash got a nice buff for its targeting, and Diamond Lancers haven't been able to have a moment in the spotlight for a while. Unfortunately, alongside Edge of Fate's release, Bungie have made a change in Stasis where freezing a combatant will now only stun overloads, making Stasis the only subclass to have one type of champion they can stun, which is a tragic kick below the belt for any Stasis enthusiast. Wicked Implement also got some changes for itself, becoming a rapid fire frame, increasing the mag size to 20, and gaining intrinsic overload with its ability to slow enemies with rapid precision hits. Although it does take one extra shot to start slowing and freezing to accommodate for the fire rate change. It still fits nicely with the new artifact, where doing so will also give you frost armor. Along with that, another artifact perk is rapid precision hits with scout rifles, gives them increased reload and flinch resistance. And on top of that, when you have the artifact perk One with Frost, when you have frost armor, your stasis weapons gain reload speed and stability. Lastly, from the artifact, in the 5th and final column, we have a beautiful perk called Frigid Glare, where stasis precision final blows cause combatants to release a freezing burst, which should aid in locking down your targeted area pretty heavily. Stat-wise, you'll probably want to go with the specialist stats to keep recharging your barricade extra fast and having your weapons pack that extra punch. The fragments are Facet of Hope, Facet of Sacrifice, Facet of Dawn, Facet of Devotion, Facet of Awakening, and Facet of Ruin. Lastly on the list might be the build that I'm most excited to try with all of the stat and armor changes, and that is Heart of Inmost Light. Inmost, back with Witch Queen's release and the seasons alongside it, brought such a dominating aura with the Light 3.0 changes, especially prominent in Void and Arc, receiving a nerf to stat regen afterwards. People soloing Grandmasters with Arc was the tipping point, but now it's back with how the new armor stats work. The most important thing alongside this exotic will be your armor stats, as everyone wants to hit 200 for their preferred area, but surely aiming for 100 across 3 stats sounds enticing for people too. With your choice of archetypes, the goal will be to aim for melee, grenade, and your choice between class ability or super, as they both fit the build well. I personally will be aiming towards super, as the thruster class ability has such a low cooldown anyway, that using the Ashes to Assets and hands-on mods on my helmet will just further speed up super regen and allow me to have it available more often. The build will still be using Consecration and Knockout despite the nerfs, mainly because the other aspects don't feel they will work as strong as these two. Maybe Drenger's Lash has a shot, but last I checked, it increases the cooldown of your class ability, and we want our abilities available as often as possible. Knockout does give us a strong amount of healing when we defeat enemies with melee damage, but since we're not building into health, we might need some assistance in that area. which is where the dungeon exotic for Warlord's Ruin joins the fray. The Buried Bloodline, granting us Devour on rapid final blows with this weapon. Devour also helps give our grenade recharge a little boost, which just means more abilities for us. And with the artifact Reciprocal Draw, where rapidly defeating enemies with non-sidearm weapons will give our sidearms a short period of increased damage next draw. There should be no difficulty in proccing your Devour and having fun with ability spam. The fragments are as follows: Facet of Awakening, Facet of Protection, Facet of Dawn, and Facet of Sacrifice. And there you have it, my 5 Titan builds that I'll be bringing through Edge of Fate. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it insightful. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and tell me what's been working for you. I'll be releasing the Warlock and Hunter videos later on, so be sure to give them a watch when they're available. I'll add their links to the bio below. Also, in about a month's time, I'll be doing a Did I Cook video that my friend Dry Milk suggested to me, seeing how well these builds went in time and how they aged. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.